as promised, Matt McPeek from Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast, and this is a Fantasy Thursday episode. So, Matt, welcome to the show. Tell people a little bit about your show and what you got going on over there.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Excited to talk about fantasy football, even though this Thursday night game looks like it's going to be a real shit show. The podcast is the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. We take a couple minutes to talk about each game, maybe look at each fantasy relevant player from each game, see who's got the best matchups, who's in line for the most work, what teams are or what players you should be focusing on as far as your fantasy team goes. And then we take about the last 10 or 12 minutes and we talk about the betting situation for the week. Each week I take 9 bets. I do 3 teams against the spread. I take 3 anytime touchdown scores, 1 over, 1 under, and a road dog of the week. So far I'm 3-0 on my road dogs of the week. I am 19-8 overall on those 9 picks per week. So pretty good start to my season so far as the bets go. But I release the show Thursday nights. It's usually up by like 10 o'clock at the latest Eastern time. Usually I try and get it out so you can check it out in your morning drive if you are driving to work still. It's on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, or you can get it at the HC Universal Network. And then my show is also on the RTF Network Fridays at 6 o'clock. So definitely tune in and maybe get a couple picks, maybe get some fantasy and analysis for you for the weekend. And yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, so just like what you touched on a little bit here, we do have a Thursday night matchup. Tonight matchup, we had the Denver Broncos taking on the New York Football Jets. So give me some players to maybe start and sit those type players from those two teams.
So as far as the Jets go, it's pretty much Jamison Crowder, and that's about it. Like I said, this is looking to be a pretty bad game. It's the lowest total we've seen all year so far, 40.5 points. You got 2 3-0 team or 0-3 teams. Sorry. Last week Denver only mustered up 10 points on offense for the Jets. Their offense was outscored by the Colts defense 9-14, which is pretty ridiculous. Darnold threw 2 pick sixes. He threw another interception in the end zone. They gave up that safety. Just very pathetic football all around by the Jets. Rookie Denzel Mims and the star running back Le'Veon Bell are both still on IR. Rashad Perriman is out for this game with an ankle injury. So it's pretty much Jamison Crowder, and that's it. He's still questionable with a hamstring injury. He had a huge week 1, which if you listen to the podcast, I called that. I said he was going to catch a crap ton of balls, and he did. But he hasn't played since week 1. If he does play, he would be by far their best offensive option. I would assume he leads the team in targets by a wide margin if he does play, but we're probably not going to know until game time. The Broncos have given up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers so far, so it's a good matchup if Crowder is able to play, but we just won't know. Braxton Berrios has been the lone bright spot for the Jets this season, if you want to call it that. He scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. In those 2 games, he caught 10 of his 12 targets. Pretty good. Adam Gaze's offense has been always predicated on the short passing game, those quick throws. So it could be he could have a decent game if Crowder is to be out for this game. But let's be real. You have to really be hurting if you're thinking about starting Braxton Berrios. So if you're in just a normal 10-12 team league, there's better options for you out there besides those guys. As far as running back goes, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but the immortal Frank Gore, the inconvenient truth, is probably the best start for the Jets. He's gotten 37 touches in his last 2 games, despite both of those games being complete blowouts. So that's pretty surprising. He's getting the work, even though they're down big. The Broncos D-line did just give up they held the Buccaneers running backs to 68 rushing yards on 20 attempts, which is pretty good. But James Conner put up 100 yards and a TD in week 2 on only 16 carries, and then Derrick Henry put up 100 yards in week 1. And plus, the Broncos D line is razor thin right now. They've already lost Von Miller for the year. His replacement, Jeremiah Attacho, sure I'm saying that wrong. He's out for Thursday night. And now Jarrell Casey, their best run stuffing defensive tackle, he's on IR. So then they now have 3 defensive tackles on IR. I think the Jets try and limit Darnold's exposure in this game. I think they try and run the ball and only throw it when they absolutely have to. So I think if you're going to start anybody from the Jets, it's Frank Gore and it's Jamison Crowder if he does play. The Broncos' injuries are on offense as well, though. It's not just on defense. They were forced to start Jeff Driscoll last week with Drew Lock dealing with that shoulder injury, and now they're going to be starting Brett Ripon on Thursday. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong as well. They're without their best offensive weapon, Cortland Sutton. He's out for the rest of the year. So it's now pretty much on these 2 rookie wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Noah Fant is now by far their best option on offense. He caught a touchdown in weeks 1 and 2. So if you look at the Jets against tight ends, Jordan Reed scored twice against them in week 2. And he was essentially, the 49ers just pulled him off the street and he scored twice against the Jets. So I think Noah Fant is probably the best play for the Broncos. And then you got Melvin Gordon, who he'll probably see a healthy amount of work with a 3rd string quarterback making his first start. So he's obviously worth a start, and he'll probably be pretty good. So that's pretty much it as far as the fantasy stuff goes. I mentioned the bets that I've been making throughout the weeks. If I'm going to look at any prop bets for this game, right now the Jets team total is 20.5 right now. I would love to take the under on that, but I get screwed every single time I bet either for or against the Jets.
Same here.
I got my boy Joe Willie Namath over here. My dad unfortunately passed along to me the honorable Jets fandom, which has just been so much fun. But yeah, I would probably go with the under on the Jets team total. I'd probably go with the under on the Broncos team total as well, under 20 points. I really think this is going to be a low scoring game. If you want to take the under on the whole game, it's 40.5 right now. A couple player props. Noah Fant to score a touchdown right now is plus 210. That's nice and juicy because I think if there's anybody that's going to score a touchdown in this game, it's probably Noah Fant. And then Jamison Crowder right now, as far as the FanDuel Sportsbook app goes, which is the one I use, the receptions prop is not out yet, but I would definitely look at that. If it does come out, hopefully we can get it around 5.5. I would jump on the over for that because I think he's going to catch, between 6 to 8 balls probably. So, so those are the looks you want to give the Thursday night game here.
Yeah, so there is a player from the Denver Broncos that is a free agent or I guess a non-pickup in our league, and that is Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. I have been kind of teetering one way or the other to pick him up or not. And do you think this 3rd string starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos would use a player like Jared Jeudy as a security blanket coming forward?
I would say the security blanket would be Noah Fant. You see it all the time. These young quarterbacks, they love throwing the ball to the tight end. It's usually a huge body right in the middle of the field.
Right.
The read is a lot shorter. So I would say that Noah Fant would probably be that security blanket. Jerry Jeudy, he kind of profiles more as like a deep threat because he's so fast, but he can run every route. So I don't know if I wouldn't pigeonhole him like that, but it's a lot to ask of a pair of rookies to be your number 1 and 2 wide receivers on a short week on the road in this crazy COVID off season where they didn't have any training camp, they had no preseason. So
right.
I think it's a lot to ask of a couple rookies. As it goes with anytime you're thinking about making a pickup in fantasy football, it all depends on your scoring. your roster construction, and obviously who do you have to drop to pick this guy up. With Cortland Sutton out, yes, Jerry Judy's probably the best wide receiver option for them going forward. He's probably going to lead the team in wide receiver targets, but I would say that Noah Fant will at the end of the season will probably lead the team in overall targets. So yeah, I mean, if it's just a 10-team league, I think Jerry Jeudy might be best for you. Just keep him on the waiver wire. Let's see how he does with this quarterback change. And you might get screwed, and you might not get him if he does end up having a big game. But
Right.
it's a lot for me to take a rookie wide receiver as my as somebody that I'm gonna add off the waiver wire and plug in and play on a Thursday night. I'd stay away from it.
Right. And then now my weekly couple questions for you here. I was just proposed a trade here, and I would be acquiring Deshaun Watson, Chris Carson, Cam Newton, and Jeff Jeffries, the Minnesota receiver. And this person wants Aaron Jones, the running back for Green Bay, Mike Evans, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady.
No,
Do you
that
think
is
that's a fair trade?
that is the trashiest, most horrible trade offer I've heard in a long time. Do not do that. Aaron Jones
This
is one of the best running backs in the league right now. Aaron Rodgers is just lighting it up. Yeah, stay away from that guy. Any offers that guy sends you, just immediately ignore because they're probably complete garbage.
this has been the third one. Like he wants Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady bad, and he has been offering Deshaun Watson and Cam Newton every day for the last 2 weeks, and I've been saying no.
Yeah,
So now let's look at my roster moving forward for this week. I am 2-1 on the season, and I'm playing my wife this week, which is 3-0. Now, my biggest question that I have this week is at the quarterback position. Right now, I'm starting Patrick Mahomes, which is playing the New England defense this week. Of course, they are at home at Arrowhead, but I also have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers on the bench. Aaron Rodgers is playing Atlanta, and Tom Brady is playing the Los Angeles Chargers. Do I dare sit Patrick Mahomes and sub in Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady?
no. Um, so you've made what I would consider um, a big mistake. You are rostering three quarterbacks right now, and you have the best quarterback in the league. So you're to me, you're just kind of wasting two roster spots because you're never gonna start somebody over Patrick Mahomes. He's the best in the league. I don't know what your scoring system is, but um,
Standard PPF or whatever.
PPR. So yeah, I mean, do you know if it's a 6 point per passing touchdown or is it just 4 points?
It is 6.
6 points, yeah. So even more. You should start Patrick Mahomes every single week.
Yep.
You used probably a first or a second round pick on the guy for a reason. He's the best in the league. Just keep him in your keep him in your starting spot, and don't even bother thinking about sitting him because you don't want to be that guy that sits Patrick Mahomes on a week like last week where
Right.
he threw for what was it, 3 touchdowns and ran for one.
He had 5
Um,
total touchdowns, right? If I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you can just keep Mahomes in. The 1 week that he's on bye, just pick up a quarterback off the waiver wire that has a good matchup. This dude that wants those that it's trying to snipe those quarterbacks from you, I would do whatever you can to try and flip at least one of them for whatever you can. I'm sorry, maybe I misheard the trade, but he offering you Aaron Jones
No,
as
I
part of it?
I have Aaron Jones.
Okay,
So
right.
he is offering me here, let me pull up. It was Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton,
Chris
and then
Carson.
yeah, Chris Carson, if it would pull up here. There he goes. And Jeffries for Minnesota wide receiver.
Hmm.
And he wants Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady.
Yeah, no. I would consider doing um I would consider doing one of those quarterbacks for Chris Carson if the dude would do that, just straight up Chris Carson for one of those two quarterbacks. Maybe you can offer it up to him like, yo, you can pick the quarterback that you want. But yeah, man, I would. It sounds to me like that league people have somewhat overvalued quarterbacks, and I would take advantage of it. I would trade both of your backup quarterbacks right now, and try and get another running back, maybe another wide receiver. But yeah, you got Patrick Mahomes, bro. You're good. You got the best quarterback in the league. Most likely, he's going to be the highest scoring quarterback every week, besides maybe Lamar Jackson. But yeah, I would turn those two quarterbacks into some depth at running back or receiver as quick as you can, for
Yeah,
sure.
and just in my defense, I did not mean to pick 3 quarterbacks, but my wife was sitting next to me in the fantasy draft, and our son started to, like, cry, and she's like, "You need to go take care of him." So she was trying to mess me up on the draft, and I forgot I drafted Aaron Rodgers the previously, and then I drafted Tom Brady, and I kinda panicked a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I drafted,
Hey, man,
3
it's all good.
quarterbacks. So let's wrap this up here real quick. Our fantasy segment is about over, but I got to ask you about the COVID game. Obviously, the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers have postponed their game. Reports are starting to surface that they're going to play Monday or Tuesday. How does that affect fantasy moving forward?
Yeah, it's pretty significant. I, I've been playing fantasy for about 10 years now, and I don't remember ever a situation like this where we could have a game on Monday or Tuesday. We could not have a game. We just don't know. So if you're somebody that has a Derrick Henry, a Juju Smith-Schuster, any of the players, Ben Roethlisberger, any players from that game. I know a bunch of the leagues that I'm in, we've talked about. Having everybody designate kind of like a spare player, like a sub, if you will, and let's say Sunday at 12 o'clock, everybody has to pick a player on their bench that is their sub, and let's say Monday night rolls around and the game's not happening, and Tuesday rolls around and we find out that the game is canceled, and now all of a sudden, you're the Derrick Henry owner and your RB1 is just not playing. Well, hopefully, you've designated a player on Sunday afternoon as your fill-in if that game does in fact not happen. So it's going to take some work by your commissioner. Hopefully, you got a good commissioner that's open to putting an extra 5 or 10 minutes into the week so he can adjust each team's scores if you do have to use a sub player. Um, One thing I would say is if you do have a one of these Tennessee or Pittsburgh players, try and put them in your flex position so that way, if the game doesn't happen, that way, let's say you have Derrick Henry in your flex, it's now Monday night, and whatever the Monday night game is this week, I think it's the Falcons at the Packers. Let's say that game's over, and we find out, hey, the Titans Steelers game is not happening. At least now you'll have your option as far as either a wide receiver or a running back to use as your sub to put in for Henry if you have him in your flex. If you have Derrick Henry locked into your one of your running back spots, then you pretty much have to pick a running back to be your sub. So I would try and put those guys in a flex position if possible. And then as far as the quarterbacks go or the kickers, let's say you have Steven Gostkowski, the Titans kicker. Um, I would make sure that your commissioner is communicating with the league, and you don't want to force any team to have to roster two kickers. So it'd kind of suck if your kicker ends up not playing, and you get penalized for not having a second kicker on your bench or whatever. So it definitely bring these things up with your commissioner and have a plan in place. Like I said, for your normal players, I think having a sub as like a backup plan is a good idea. But as far as the quarterback and the kicker situation goes, that's kind of tricky. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a situation that we've never come across before. Having we're not sure if this game's going to actually be played or not. So
Right.
um, and also, just try and roll with the punches. Remember, it's a very strange year, and don't break your commissioner's balls too much if things don't work out to your likings. It's not easy being a fantasy commissioner. I'm a commissioner of 3 leagues, and it's been kind of crazy today, trying to talk back and forth with every league member about how we'll address this situation. But it's definitely unique.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am the commissioner of the Man Hour League as well, and I didn't even think about doing like a sub player by like any means. but we'll definitely bring that up first thing in the morning, or actually right after this show's over. We'll bring it up here and talk to them about it and see what we want to do. But hopefully, the Titans and Steelers do play a Monday night game or two. Like, I'd be fine with a Tuesday night game, like, honestly,
Hell
too.
yeah, more
Which,
football. It's cool with
right,
me.
yeah. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Thursday night games, I think Tuesday night would be it'd be pretty exciting, I think, to watch a Tuesday night game. So Matt, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you next week for some more fantasy tips and some bets and whatnot. So as always, thanks for joining us, and guys, we'll be right back. Right, Mike and Mike, Man Hour.